With the likes of the Sony Xperia E and the Sony Xperia J, Sony has brought a new mid-range edition to the table. Hey, what's up guys, my name is Corie and this is the Sony Xperia SP. Now, isn't it funny that the mid-range phones of this year has most of the specs of the high-end phones of last year? The Sony Xperia SP is a prime example of this madness. Looking at the design, you will never guess that this phone is classed as a mid-range phone. Just like the classy look of the Sony Xperia Z, Sony has put in the same amount of effort to ensure that the SP carry on the same standard. The front of the phone is made up of almost entirely the screen, with Sony's signature power on and off button on the side below the volume rocker and above the dedicated camera button. Around the back is the 8 megapixel camera with the speaker grill next to it and with the LED flash under the camera as well. Now, one thing that really stands out when it comes to the design of this phone is the LED notification illuminated strip on the bottom, which changes colors when you're playing your music, when you receive an email, when you receive a message, or if you're even getting a phone call. This is one thing that really drew me to the design, and it's a very unique feature on this phone. Overall, the Sony Xperia SP is a good example of what Sony can do when it comes to the design of a phone. Now, even though the Sony Xperia SP is classed as a mid-range phone, it's rocking a 4.6-inch display with a TFT screen capable of 720p resolution at 319 ppi. The TFT screen is also backed with Sony's Bravo Engine 2, which simply means it enhances the contrast and the sharpness of the display and brings down the noise and the saturated colors to make it easy on the eye. Overall, I cannot moan about this display. I've been using the phone for a few days now, and the display to me is very nice when comparing it to some phones out there. The only thing a friend of mine was complaining about is the viewing angle, but when you think about it, you can't really base the phone, the display of a phone, based it on a viewing angle, to be honest, because who really looks at their phone from the side? I normally look at my phone face to face. I look at the screen, I don't look at it from the side to see the screen. So yeah, the display is very nice and there's not much you can complain about when it comes to the display of this phone. It's safe to say that the performance on the Sony Xperia SP is pretty good. It comes with the Snapdragon Crate dual-core processor, clocked at 1.7 GHz with 1 GB of RAM. When put to the test using the AnTuTu benchmark, it came up with some respectable scores, not like the quad-core Snapdragon 600 processor, but it's more than enough speed and enough power for the average user, or even if you're looking to buy your first smartphone, it's more than enough speed and the power for a first user of a Android phone. But honestly speaking guys, the specs of this phone is pretty good comparing it to some of the high-end phones out there. It has some great specs. The 1 GB of RAM is also available for multitasking, and the phone also comes with the Adreno 320 GPU. So in terms of gaming and graphics, the Sony Xperia SP is pretty good. Hardware on the Sony Xperia SP comes with the standard connections, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPRS, NFC, and the phone also gives you the option to do some tethering, which is always a good look. But those features are all included. The phone is also 4G enabled, so if you're from the UK, yes, your phone is 4G compatible, but it does vary in different countries. Some countries it will be 4G and some countries it will only be 3G. In terms of the storage, the Sony Xperia SP comes with 8 GB of storage built in, but you can also expand the memory using a micro SD card up to 32 GB. So big thumbs up to Sony for giving us that option to expand our memory. When it comes to a removable back, it's always a good look on a smartphone, but cheeky Sony decided to screw us over and the battery is not removable. Yes, the battery is not removable, but it's not so bad. We have a decent sized battery in the phone, The Sony Xperia S is packing a 2370 milliamp battery with less resolution on the display, so you get a full day's usage out of this phone with no problem, maybe even more if you take advantage of the power saving options which is provided. So when comparing the battery of the Sony Xperia SP to some of the high-end phones out there, it's actually pretty good. A 2370 milliamp battery is very good compared to some phones out there, and the average user should get at least 10 hours talk time out of this phone with no problem. So big thumbs up for Sony for putting such a decent sized battery in a mid-range phone. And now the camera. The Sony Xperia SP is packing a 8 megapixel camera that can produce still shots with the maximum resolution of 3264 pixels. The Sony Xperia SP does take some ideas from the Sony Xperia Z, like the Superior Auto Mode. The Superior Auto Mode basically guess what type of scene you are trying to capture and adjust the settings on the camera according to that particular scene. The only downside is that the Superior Auto Mode will change the resolution from 8 megapixel to 7 megapixel. But there are plenty modes on the camera that you can fiddle with until you find the right one that you like. The SP is capable of capturing full HD footage at 30 frames per second. Another unique feature I like about the phone is that it can also capture HDR video footage, making it one of the few devices to have this feature after the Sony Xperia Z and the Sony Xperia ZL. The front-facing camera, on the other hand, is a bit of a letdown by Sony. It's a VGA camera, so if you are a frequent user of Skype video calls, then this front-facing camera is not the one for that. So overall, the camera on the Sony Xperia SP is pretty good for the average mid-range user. It's 8 megapixels, so you still be able to get great images from this phone. And last but very important is the software. The Sony Xperia SP is running Android 4.1.2 Jelly Bean with Sony's light user interface. It comes with some Google apps like Google Now, Google Chrome, and you also get some of the standard Sony apps like the Walkman Play and all that good stuff. But in terms of the overall interface, it's very, very smooth and it's very light. It's not over bloated with Sony's application. It's more Android, to be honest. And yeah, the interface is very nice and the software is 4.1.2 and it should be upgradable in the future. In terms of the price, the Sony Xperia SP retails for around £250 to £300, and you can get the phone on contract for around £22 a month. With that, you should be able to get unlimited calls and all of that good stuff. So I can only sum up this phone by saying it's cheap, sexy, and it's worth the buy. Definitely worth the buy. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoy my review. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think of this phone. Are you looking to get this phone? If so, why are you looking to get it? What's the feature that you like about this phone? And if you haven't already, please ensure to subscribe. Follow me on Google+, follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you guys in the next video where I'll be comparing this phone to some mid-range or some high-end smartphones out there. Anyway, you guys, my name is Corie. Peace.